Hi, I'm Stefan, the BMW DIY guy, and do you want to install a hardwired front and rear dash cam into your BMW? I'll show you how. All right, y'all, so let's talk about this project a little bit before we do it, and the reasons why, candidly, I think you're going to want to do this yourself. Now, having a dash cam these days is almost a requirement. We've all seen the videos, we've all seen the crazy driving, and we all have those times where we're like, man, I wish I had that on camera. And being able to have a front and rear dash cam that's running all the time while you're driving is a good security idea. Now, this is the brand new Pelsee P1. I got an opportunity to try this out, so we're going to be installing it into a BMW X3 today. And you can follow these guidelines for almost anything. Each car might be a little bit different, but the fundamentals are going to be the same. We're also going to install the hardwire kit because I don't want to have to deal with plugging this into my lighter, though that's not a bad option. I want this to be on all the time, full time, without me having to think about it. All right, so let's go ahead and unbox this. Let's get started. We're going to get started in the front first, and I'm going to show you how to run all the wires and do all the things, and so you can do this install yourself. Let's jump in. Let's get started. All right, so let's look at the job that we're going to do. So we're going to install the front dash cam somewhere in about this position right here, out of the way of line of sight for the driver. Could even be here beside the mirror. We're going to route the cabling up behind the headliner, down the A-pillar, down the plastic here. We're going to route down here. This is where our fuse box is. We're going to find an accessory 12-volt switched accessory fuse. And then I've got the cable laid out just so you can see it. We're going to run the rear camera from the lift gate. So it's going to be installed somewhere about here. You can even put it into the center, wherever you'd like it to be. And we're going to route the cabling behind the plastic, down through the joint, back underneath the carpet, and all the way to the front. And I've got the cable laid out here just to get a sense of what it looks like. So this job isn't all that hard. It's just cable routing, really. I'm doing a clean installation. Now, if you didn't have a lift gate and you were doing this in a sedan, you wouldn't have to worry about these pieces here. But the one thing that we're going to want to be really careful of as we do this, and I'll show you as we start pulling some of the additional plastics here, that we want to make sure we've got enough cable length in this joint so when this moves, we're not pulling on the cable, right? So we're going to start here in the back first. What I'm probably going to do is route the camera here somewhere right around in this position, but I do tend to put them a little bit to one side because then it's not dead center in your rear view mirror as you go, which can be a little irritating. I've placed cameras there before and I've always ended up moving them. So we're gonna place the camera somewhere in this area, route it back behind this plastic, get it down to this joint. So let me start pulling this off. We're gonna need a plastic trim tool and I'll show you what that looks like as this comes off. Underneath this edge right here, popped it away, and then this whole center piece will come away all the way across. You might as well just take the whole thing off, though you don't necessarily have to. But it's also going to highlight, as we just saw one drop, you're going to lose your plastic clips. So you can see here, 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 here. You'll see where these slide off. So obviously this one came from right here. So you can slide them back into place. And these tend to be a little fragile. So just be careful with them. They're easy to break. They're not expensive to replace, but let's not break them if we can. Okay, so now with that off, we can see here where we can start to get to the plastic trim here now that it's loose. And it's going to be on similar mounts. So when you pull, or similar, those plastic clips. So as we pull this away, there also are metal posts that go up here into the frame that help hold this solid. So I'm going to take on this edge first and pull away just like that. And then we should be able to get it from this last little bit right there. Good. Okay, so you do this real time. So now we can get back behind in this cover. Now, if you look, there are two little Allen wrenches right here, or excuse me, Allen wrench screws right here, here and here. They're probably T20s from the looks of it. So go ahead and back this off. We've got this cover off, and now we can see exactly how we're going to route the cabling down through here and out and back behind this plastic to get all the way down. All right, so some of these pieces are easier to show off than they are kind of taking them off, so they make sense of where the clips are. So pull those two T20s here and here. This cover slides off really easily. You can see with the wiring harness, the existing wiring harness. Obviously, I've run the cable, but I want to catch you up here because it's pretty simple. So this triangular piece here on the X3s has those same plastic posts on them, as you can see here, here, and here, and a metal clip in the corner. So what I find is it's easier to start on this corner. You can use plastic trim tool, you get your fingers in, pull a little bit, then work this edge all the way along till you get to the trim gasket. You have to peel that back just a little bit to get it out, and then hinge the entire thing out off that metal post that sits right here. So the whole piece will come up and out. So now that that's out and I've pulled this side panel right here, I'm going to take my rear camera run. So the USB is what plugs in, this USB-C is what plugs into the camera. So I'm going to route it back behind, up behind the carpet, up through here. You can get your fingers through here, route it up through, route it up behind the edge of the carpet right here and into this space right here. Now you've got the existing wiring harness. This cover is actually surprisingly hard to get off. So what I found is all I did was just gap this cover a little bit with my plastic trim tool and then fed the USB cable up all the way up and through where it's going to attach to the camera about here. So now what you're going to want to do is get rid of some of this excess cabling, and I'm going to route it inside right here. I'm going to route it a little bit nicer once this is all good to go, more like that. But what we want to make sure to do though is that we've got enough cable. First of all, we're not wasting a bunch of extra cable up in here, but then in addition, we want to have enough cable that this hinges safely when the lid goes up and down, right? So what you can do is you can just take this and move it and see if it pulls on the cable at all. So I'm looking at the cable end right here and you're not seeing anything move, which means as my lift gate goes up and down, it's not going to be pulling on this cable. All right, so once you've worked out the slack in your harness here to make sure you're not going to pull it all, you can always just put the camera on and mount. Now, the actual camera angle itself, I'm not worried as much about because I can adjust that, but we're going to set this here on the back glass like this. And what you want to do is, I usually use the heater coil lines as kind of my level, right, to make sure that the camera is relatively level. Also, if you can't get away from your heater coil lines, and if I get up too high here, I'm probably going to be in the frosting of the glass, and I don't really want that, or have a heater coil line right in the middle of the camera. So what I'm going to do is probably place it in between the two about here, like this on this side. And then I can place my camera in here. And then at that point, I can start to put the plastics back. But make sure that you don't have an excessive amount of cable hanging out. But we can put all these plastics back and then get to routing this cable up through the front, all the way up to the front and power. All right, so the camera is hung, got the cabling done. I've tested this several times to make sure it doesn't pull on any of these cables. So I've got enough cable length here. It's not going to be a problem. I'm going to put this piece back on first. Keep in mind that this metal post right here goes in on this side of the speaker. You kind of hinge it in and then lay it down. Those plastic posts go into the holes here and here. Make sure to pull your plastic trim up around that edge so it's not trapped back behind. So put this piece back on, put this piece back on, and then put the center piece back on, all on those plastic posts. Just use gentle force to press them back into place. Breaking those posts is really, really simple and easy to do, so try to avoid that. Go ahead and get those three pieces back into place, and then I'll show you how to feed your cabling up and to get it up to the front of the car. All right, so I've pulled the seat forward. This bolster on the side, you can get your fingers behind it and kind of gently pull, and it'll pull away. It's on a series of posts and clips. Now, I did want to leave this, and just in case you guys saw it, this goes into a big post right here. This is a big metal post that's plastic that goes into this box right here. Most often than not, it comes away just like it did. So I find it's easier if we pull this back out, and it's going to take a little bit of pressure to get this back out, to push this back into the box, so when we reinstall this, it goes back in straight. It's easier to get the post in and then to the box on here when you press this on. Okay, but now that away, I can pull it up and away. You can see it's got a lower hook right there. So now we can see light all the way through right there. All we have to do is feed the cable up, give us enough space to come all the way up to get to our side plastics right here. And we're going to run the rest of the run up underneath the door sill on this side. So let me get the cable through and I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so you can see I've fed the cable through. It was really easy. I just reached in as deep as I could with the cable in my hand, and then I was able to fish it from this side, pull it through. And I'm going to, I'll zip tie it to a couple of the wiring harnesses here just to keep it from running too crazy. But then now, the next thing all we have to do is get it behind the plastic here, behind these edges, and then down underneath all of this here. So what I usually will do is you can pop the seat base up. If you pull on it and pop up a little bit, you can get behind this plastic and route the cabling here behind the plastic. Get it all back behind. You can take it and you can press it up underneath the plastic of the door sill, press it underneath the B pillar right here, get it underneath that lead edge, and to continue to just lead it all the way up the door sills until we get to the front of the car, okay? So go ahead and feed all that in, and then we're gonna start routing it for the front camera and power. All right, so a quick review before I move to the front of the car. You can see I've got plenty of cable here on my camera. I can always adjust the camera angle once it's live. This piece is on, this piece is on, this is on. The trim is back around the plastic. My side paneling is on. We can go up here to the side bolster. I've taken this piece out like I mentioned, so when you reach in right here, there's a plastic tab on the inside right here that you press down on that'll help get that out. And then this piece, my seatbelt's going to be in the way right now, but it's got that finger down at the end. That finger goes down into the slot right there first and then slots down into place and then slides back in. You can bang it back into place and run your seat back up. Cabling is all down the door sill here on the passenger side. And then I'll show you because we're gonna have to pull some of the door sill on the front here to get to the fuse box. All right, so go ahead and get that all cut up and then we will get to the fuse box next. Okay, so here we are in the passenger footwell. I've still got the trim in place. You can see I've run the cable up this far, but we're gonna grab this, just grab underneath it and pop upwards. Once this is off, same thing, you can reach in and pull this plastic off. This will get us to the footwell fuse box right back here, and we'll find a 12-volt switched accessory fuse that we're gonna use. This is our wiring harness that we're gonna use to directly power this whole system. I've just got it sitting here for right now. We'll go ahead and get these plastics off, and then we'll pull that fuse next. All right, so once you have these two plastics off, you can take this kick plate off. There's just two little twist knobs. Just go and you twist them, and then this piece will come down. If you want, go ahead and unplug the light right here to give yourself a little bit more room, because we're gonna need to get back to the fuse box. Now, it's gonna be a little bit hard to see, but it's right here. So I'll get better lighting on it in a second, and then I'll show you where a good 12-volt switched accessory fuse is, but this is what we're going to be tapping here to get power for the camera system. All right, so looking here at the fuse box up here in the wheel well, it's a little bit hard to get a good camera angle. It's actually easier to see looking, but we need two fuses. We need a constant power fuse and a switched power fuse. So in this G01X3, and I've already pulled it so you can see the gap right here, that's fuse 22. That is a 30 amp fuse. That is constant power. And as you can see, just beyond the blue box right there is fuse 46. That yellow 20 right there is our switched power. And those are what we're going to use. So let's look at what these taps look like. And I have them partially assembled so you can see. Okay, so here is our constant power, right? So I've plugged this into, we look at our wiring harness here, the wires are marked. The B plus right here is constant. So this is our constant power. I've pulled out the 30, I've slid it into this additional slot right here, and then this entire box is going to slide back up into the fuse position, and these will overhang the other fuses. Then we're gonna do the same on this side. We'll pull out that yellow 20 out of fuse position 46, slide it in right here, and then slide this into position as well. The nice thing is, our box here actually has some diagnostic lights. So it actually has B+, which is constant power, and accessory as well. Those will light up if you have them in the right places. So you can use these to test. Now, always confirm that you're using the right fuses. Even in this case, even if you had a G01X3, confirm that you're looking at the right ones, just to make sure you don't make a mistake. Fuse boxes can get complicated. Or if you have a different car, double check. You need 12-volt constant and 12-volt switched, and then make sure you've got the right ones plugged into the right places. Okay, so let me go get these put back up in line, and then I'll show you what that looks like. All right, so with both of those in place here, and then back on 46 here, and then I always use the ground post right here. There's a very convenient ground post right here that you route this down to. Now that that's plugged in, you notice I now have a light on B positive. So that means I do have a proper constant. The accessory is off because I don't have the ignition on or anything else like that. Now, this isn't a bad time to test. I've got my back camera here. I've got my front camera here. So I can actually test at this point. And I'm a big fan of doing that before you wire too much further. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab the camera, and we're gonna plug it all in here just in the footwell to see what it looks like. As you can tell, my accessory light is on because I turned on my ignition. Right now, it's super blurry because I haven't removed the film yet. And then it also prompted me to format the SD card, which goes in the side right there. So we've got good power. Everything appears to be working. So I'm gonna finish routing the rest of the cables. I'm not gonna deal with any of the camera setup right now. We're gonna talk about that a fair amount. But what I did wanna do first off is make sure that everything is working. So we've got power, our accessory power, and everything else is right. And so now we're gonna route the rest of the cables up the A pillar here, and we're gonna mount the camera. All right, so for my position on the driver's seat, the most obscured, I can see where the camera is both center line and out of the way of my field of vision, is directly behind the mirror directly underneath the mount box right here for the mirror. I cannot see the camera there at all from my driver's position, which is nice. And power comes in right from the top right here, like this. So the goal is going to be to run the plug out right here of the edge of the shroud right here, up behind the plastic, up behind the ceiling liner, and then down the A-pillar. Now, so we look down here, we've got enough space. This is the camera. This is the run from the camera line to the back. This has got more than enough space to run all the way up and run all the way up here to the top. Because keep in mind, the constant power cable powers this, but also splits off for the rear camera. So that split's going to be somewhere right around in here. I'm going to have it all plugged together. So this isn't that hard. What I usually will do is I'll run the cabling up the A-frame right here, and I'm also going to have to be running 2 cables. So this as well, so both lines here. I'm going to run it behind the rubber trim right here with the plastic out of the way. It's really nice to be able to get this back behind. I run it all the way back, tuck it back behind the A-pillar cover right here. I do not put it in front. Remember, most cars these days have an airbag right here, have an A-pillar airbag right here. So if you run on the back side of it right here, loop around the top, and then get behind the ceiling liner right here, run it down, it should be good to go. So I'm going to start that process. I'll show you what that looks like. It's easier than it sounds, trust me. All right, so let's get caught up. So I've hung the camera here, I've peeled it off. I've also pulled the film off the front of the lens just to make sure it wouldn't be hard to get to in a second. I wanted to make sure I had the right orientation for the plug as it comes around the plastic trim here, tucked up into the headliner all the way around this seam right here, and then down the pillar edge. I left a little bit of it out so you could see kind of what I'm doing, tucking it back behind. And as you can see, it comes out the bottom here. So once that's all done, we can tuck all the rest of these cables away really, really nicely, put our trim back on, and then just configure the camera. All right, one last look here before we put the plastics back on. I've tucked everything back away up here high because what we don't want to do is have them get in the way of the feet of this plastic piece that comes on. On that note, very frequently, you can see these white posts, plastic posts that get left behind. These very, very often get left behind. You can either just pry them out or use a pair of pliers, but they get left behind when you pull the trim up. So don't be surprised by that. So when you pull those off, all of mine stayed behind. The 1, 2, 3 here also stayed behind that I've already taken out. So transfer those back to your plastic trim, put the footwell piece on first, go ahead and put the side piece back on, and go ahead and put the kick plate back here on, plug your light back in, slide the back of the kick plate on, lift it up, turn those little twist locks, and everything's reassembled, and we can just check the camera. All right, y'all, so to finish the setup here, and I will have future videos showing image quality and other things, but as you can tell, camera's up and running, which is really, really great. The rear is working as well. So I've got the app installed here on my phone. I've got an Android phone, so I downloaded it out of the Google Play Store. And connecting to the camera, I connected through Wi-Fi. I found the correct Wi-Fi turned on. Now, the one thing I did have to do is if you press the center button here, and it's going to complain right now because it's connected to my phone, but that's how you get into the menus here on the camera. Press the center button, use this as essentially the toggle downward. Toggle downward, I had to turn the Wi-Fi on the camera because it wasn't on by default. So once I turned that on, I was able to find it here. So I was able to add a camera, find the Wi-Fi here on my phone and connect. So now it's connected and working really, really well. So front view, rear view. Yeah, it looks great. It's got some basic information, altitude and so on, speed, so on. And then you can go into your configuration and go into exactly how you want to get this set up. So your various video resolution, how long you want your loop to run, time marks, your speed, collision detection, both parking and while driving. How much of your frame rate for time-lapse video. So if you have the hardwire set up like I do, you can set up a time-lapse so it'll sit in parking mode and will record while parking. And it says that 1 frame per second is the most efficient. So you can set that to 1. How long you want your time-lapse to run, right? So I'm probably going to leave it off because in most cases I've got this car parked in the garage, but it'd be a good thing to have before it goes into a sleep state. How you want to configure your Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi password. Now, firmware update. I do want to note that the first time I connected to the camera, it noticed. So I added the camera and then it noticed that there was a firmware update. So I was able to get the firmware here. Now, and what I will have in a future video, because this is focused on install, this has full color night camera. based off of the Sony sensor in this. It has quite a few features, and I'll walk through all of those features, but that firmware was really important to make sure to get the night vision of this updated to the proper level and the latest build on the camera. But with that said, all good to go. Install's done, so go ahead and clean up. Make sure that all your wiring is good. Make sure that all your plastics are back on, and good job. You're all done. All right, y'all, all done. So go ahead and clean up and put your tools away. And you can tell this really isn't hard install, and this will walk you through that entire process. And I really love having this hardwired. That way I don't have to worry about that. So make sure to check out the follow-up video that I'll be posting regarding the phone app in a little bit greater detail, some of the features and functions of the camera in greater detail as well, including the night vision and some of those functions. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please make sure to click like and subscribe. It makes a genuine difference to my channel, and I would truly appreciate it. I'll see you on my next project.